Have you ever been in a conversation with someone or heard someone speaking and they kept getting off topic, right? They just kept veering off, talking about something that wasn't relevant to the topic at hand. Has that ever happened? Well, when someone's speaking and they don't stay on point and they don't stay on topic, then what happens is this takes away from the effectiveness and the clarity of their communication. And so they're less persuasive, they're less influential when they keep going off topic, because it's very difficult to follow them. Sometimes it can be frustrating if you're in a conversation and they're talking about something else, or they're talking about themselves, or they're not talking about what's relevant to that conversation at that time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you recall, we have been working through a series called How to Carve Out the Top Spot in the Minds of Those Who Listen to You and the people who are around you, your employers or your potential employers, your colleagues, your clients, your customers. You want to hold that top position in your mind. When they think of you, they think of an effective or an excellent or an amazing communicator, an amazing speaker. And the reason that this is important, as we talked about in the last video, is that when you feel confident about your speech and you know that you're able to connect with people, right, then you feel calmer, you feel more relaxed, you feel more confident, you speak better, you speak smoother. It actually influences how well you speak, okay? So the first letter that we talked about was speaking clearly. It was clear speech, clarity, right? The next letter was accuracy. And we said one of the most important things about being accurate is that it builds trust. People believe you. And when this happens, you're able to be more influential and more persuasive. And that's important because, if you're speaking and people are listening and they're not, okay, and then they move on to someone else, or you're trying to present your idea, or you're just giving a report and they're like, well, is that even accurate, right? This person's giving me wrong numbers. Or if you're trying to persuade them or make a request, well, yeah, but that's not a persuasive argument. So you want people to listen to you and to trust what you're saying. And you feel more confident when you know that that's the case, and therefore you'll speak more smoothly. So today, we will look at the R, right, which is relevancy. Relevancy. So when you're speaking, you want to make sure that you're staying on point, that what you're saying is relevant to the situation and to the person or the people, to your audience, right? It's relevant. So what do we mean when we say relevant? What we're saying and what this means is that it's pertinent, is that it's important, right? That it's important. So it's important and also, what else? Meaningful. Meaningful to that person, to that discussion, to that argument. Okay. So it's relevant, its relevancy is that it is important, it's meaningful. And so when you keep this in mind when you're speaking, is what I'm saying important to this person? Is it important to this conversation, or can I save it for later? Or can I introduce it later? Maybe it's okay to talk about it, and maybe just not right now. So sometimes when people are speaking, they're in their own heads. They're not really listening to what the other person is saying. They're just thinking about what they want to say, how they want to respond. And when this happens, once again, you can see, you can sense they're not really present. They're not really present for me or for us or for this conversation. They're in their own heads. They're someplace else. And this can hurt you in interviews and in important discussions where, again, you're making a request or you're laying out a plan and you need other people to get on board or to be a part of it, to support it, to be supportive. If what you're saying isn't relevant, then people won't be as persuaded or convinced to get on board, to support it. Okay? So if you're in an interview and they ask you a question, this happens all the time, right? They ask you a question and all of a sudden you answer another question that they didn't even ask. This happens, I'm sure that we've all done it, right? They ask you a question about this, but you either didn't hear the question because you were in your own head, or you didn't answer the question. And so they mark you down. They say, well, this person didn't answer the question. What they said wasn't relevant to this question. Has that ever happened? Right? Maybe it doesn't happen to you. Maybe it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. And so you want to make sure that you're being relevant. Relevancy. Keeping this in mind, when you're speaking, you want to make sure that you're present, right? So I'm just going to write this over here. Let's put this in a different. So an important word here is to be present, right? You want to be present. When you're in a meeting, it's okay that if someone's speaking, someone's talking about something, you say, oh, I'd like to see. So make a mental note or jot it down and then come back and make sure that you're present, because the more present you are, the more there you are in the moment, the more likely you will be able to be what? Relevant. The more likely your comments, your input, your feedback, your thoughts, your ideas will be relevant to those people in that conversation. So you want to make sure that in the moment you're as fully present as possible and not in your own head. Now, another problem that comes about, or result that comes about when we're not present and we're in our own head, is that we start anticipating. So some of you struggle with negatively anticipating. So you start scanning ahead, you start thinking about your response, thinking about what you're going to say, right? Which means, and let me rephrase that. Let me not say you, but let me say, so a person is there and they start negatively anticipating. And they start scanning ahead, start looking at words. Oh, I don't think I'll be able to say that word, so I need to change it. Well, all during that time, they're not present. They're in their own heads. And then they start getting anxious and more nervous, right? Which then screws up their speech going forward. But if we're more present in that moment, we don't have time for all of that. We're just there. We're soaking it in. We've almost emptied our mind and we're just listening. And when the moment is right, then we respond. We haven't had time to anticipate, to scan ahead, to get anxious or nervous. So this is very, very powerful. Now, the other thing that you can do to be more relevant is to, before the meeting, or before the presentation, or before the interview, think about who's there, what questions they're going to have, the answers that they're looking for, the challenges or problems that they have. So let me put that on a different page so that you can see the importance of this, right? So we're talking about you and I being relevant, right? Or relevancy. So you think about the people who are going to be there. You think about the problems that they may have. You think about the questions that you need to answer. And this is a big one right here, this idea of questions, right? And so you're in a meeting, there are certain stakeholders there. You're going to think about what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they need to hear from me? What do they need to hear from me so that they're persuaded by this argument, right? So that they can hear what I'm saying and they can receive it and they can be influenced. What is it that they need to hear, right? What are the stakes that they have in this? What are the problems or challenges that I can address, right? What are the questions they have? Well, how would this work? Why is this true? Who's going to be participating? What are the questions that they have that I can answer? When you think through at least these things, obviously there are other things involved, but you think through the people who's going to be there, what's important for them, you think through the problems, the challenges that they have, you think through the questions that I need to answer for them. And if I say this, then what questions might they have? So if I say, well, this is going to work like this, and they say, well, what about this? Or how will this work in this particular situation, right? You think through those things, prior, right, before the meeting or before the speaking situation, before the interview, then you can be more what? You can be more relevant. You can be more relevant. So as you can probably already see, this is very, very important in your ability to communicate well, in your ability to be more influential and persuasive, in your ability to hold that top spot in their minds. So they say, well, when this person speaks, and they communicate, and they give a report, when they're doing an update, right, and they're presenting or whatever, they're on point. I can follow them. They're answering my questions. They're addressing all the issues. If they don't know the answer, hey, that's cool. They'll get it. I know that they'll get it. You're going to hold that top spot in their mind. And when you do, you're going to know it because you're going to see it. You're going to feel it. Sometimes people are even going to tell you. I can't tell you how many clients I've had who've come back and said that their employers, their leaders, their managers, their VPs, their colleagues have actually unsolicited, right, come to them and given them compliments on their speech or on the accuracy or on the information that they provided. Actually compliment them out of nowhere. So this can and often does happen when you are keeping this kind of stuff in mind, that you want to be clear and you want to be what? You want to be accurate and you want to be relevant. So in the next video, we're going to look at that next letter, which is V in this CARVE series. So if you're out there and you're watching these videos, you've been watching my videos for a while, and you're struggling with your speech, and you've been going through this cycle where you've been improving, and you'll drop down, or you'll drop back, and then you improve again, you watch some videos, you drop down. If you want to break that cycle and you want to just continue to improve your speech, the best way and the fastest way is just to work with me one-on-one. Why? Well, you and I don't know what we don't know. And so there comes a point in our life, in our career, where we need some coaching. We need someone to walk along beside us, to lead us, to take us through the path that they've traveled, as well as the fact that they've taken other people along this journey successfully. So you're going to want to work with me because I've done just that. I've traveled the path myself, and I've taken many, many, many hundreds, if not thousands of people down that same pathway successfully. If you're willing to do the work, you can look back, and in just a few short months, if not sooner, you can look back and say, wow, man, I'm just speaking so much more clearly. I'm speaking so much more smoothly. I feel so much more confident. I can see in people's faces and in their eyes that they're connecting with me. I'm able to be more influential in my workplace. I now feel more confident about applying for that next job, about starting my own business, or whatever it is that you want to do. If you're graduating, you're going to feel more confident about the interviews that are coming up. So the information that we've been talking about in this series is important for you because it's going to change the way you see yourself and the way you see how you communicate. It's going to change your level of confidence, which is going to directly impact how smoothly you're able to speak. All right, go ahead and book your assessment session with me, your smooth speech assessment session with me, so we can go ahead and get started to take your speech to that next level. My name is Michael Williams, and I'll see you soon.